Hello and good morning. Today we're going to be going over a ProVia Legacy 20 gauge steel door install. This customer actually purchased two ProVia doors. She had a double patio door that we installed yesterday. We'll go over that. And today we're going to be installing a single entry ProVia Legacy steel patio door. So without further ado, let's go check it out. So we're also replacing all the windows on this home. This is a front facade. You can see we've already replaced all of these windows. So we'll go around to the back when the patio doors are getting done. This is fine. So one of the things we like about ProVia is the way they deliver their doors. They deliver the doors wrapped in a cardboard box, and then the door slab itself is protected on the inside. We'll open it up and show you. One of the differentiators is a lot of our other vendors, they don't take as much care in protecting the finish on the door when they ship it. And so, we order these doors factory painted, factory pre-finished. Some of our other vendors, the doors would arrive with small little nicks or scratches or whatnot in the finish, which, they provide touch-up paint. But the factory finish, it's applied on the factory floor, it's baked on, it has a nice even finish. And so when you apply a little bottle of touch-up and a scratch, even if it's the same exact paint color, same formula, the finish, because the paint is drying in the field versus on the factory floor, the finish looks a little different, and sometimes it looks almost like polka dot, the finish in the paint. And a lot of our customers, or not a lot, but some of them just weren't happy with that. And so ProVia is the only vendor that we actually order factory pre-finished doors from. Any of our other vendors, we only offer prime. And so Pete will go ahead and open this up. So there it is, nice and blemish free. And then the door slab itself is also wrapped in this nice plastic wrap. Okay. And so this is the interior trim. And again, we get it factory painted. It comes wrapped in this paper, and there's, I guess, paper in between the trim to protect the finish. So again, we're really happy with the way that ProVia ships their product. It's just one of the many things that kind of sets them apart from most other door vendors. So one of the reasons we really like ProVia is the exterior cladding they do on their doors. So on the exterior brick mold, they'll wrap it in a PVC coated aluminum. It's custom bent to the brick mold profile. So this is a standard 2-inch brick mold, but they have multiple brick mold profiles, and they'll do custom widths on those different brick mold profiles as well. With that aluminum cladding, they also clad the exterior jamb and frame of the door. And so because of that, they can offer a full lifetime warranty on their doors. So we can come over here and look at kind of some of the detail for the cladding. I can pull this back. You can see this is your standard, wooden brick mold, and the trim coil is, custom bent to the same profile. And then here on the bottom of the brick mold, they have this finger joint here, and this is a composite material, which is, it will not rot. It doesn't wick up water from the ground, because typically on your entry doors, the part that's touching the ground where the water generally will sit, that's usually the first part just to fail, first part to start rotting. So the bottom, few inches is this composite material that won't rot. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is the security plate. So the security plate doesn't come standard on all of their doors. On all of the doors that we sell and install, we will typically add the option on their Signet and I believe on their Embark product series. The security plate comes standard. Other series, it's an option to add on. It's a pretty inexpensive option. So we just add it to all the ProVia doors we sell. So with the security plate, you know, when most people, in the cases of forced entry, when somebody kicks in your door, for example, the part of the door that breaks is really a pretty small piece of the door jamb. And it's a pretty small piece of wood. And so the security plate helps with just adding strength to that area on the door jamb that, you know, will typically fail in the case of forced entry. And so that's another thing that ProVia offers that a lot of other vendors do not offer, something we really like. And then the jamb depth. This one is a 5 3/4 jamb. So most other vendors, they're going to do a 4 9/16 or a 6 9/16 jamb. They don't offer any custom jam depths. There are some other vendors that do, but mostly the other ones don't. They do 4 9/16, 6 9/16. 2x4 wall, 2x6 wall. And we found in retrofit, even if somebody has a 2x4 or 2x6 wall, to get a nice, you know, fit and finish, we like doing a custom jam depth to again provide a nice fit and finish. And so that's another thing we really like with ProVia is they allow custom jam depths. Another thing we like about ProVia is they offer a frame saver jam. Now this one isn't necessarily unique to ProVia. There are a lot of vendors offering frame saver jams. What I mean by frame saver is just like the brick mold over here with the composite bottom. The bottom, and it's difficult to see on the door because it's been painted. You can kind of see a line right there. About the bottom couple inches are the same composite material. They don't wick moisture from the ground. They won't rot. Because again, you go to you know, other people's homes or people that are interested in replacing their door, this bottom part of the jamb where the threshold sits against the wood is typically, that's the first part to go. It'll be all rotted down here where after a rainstorm, you know, the water just sits here. So again, one thing we like about ProVia is they offer that composite bottom jamb. All right, so Pete got a little excited. He's already torn the existing door out and he's prepping the opening for the new door. So we just wanted to get a little shot. As you can see, this is the old door. This is the old door jamb. It actually looks like it's not in too bad a shape, but the door itself is a pretty old door. All right, so one of the things that Pete pointed out when he was installing this door, when he tore out the old door, and it's something he said he sees a lot. You know, Pete has replaced a lot of entry doors. Is typically, so this is the jack stud. So the king stud is on the other side of it, and typically the way most homes are framed, the door openings, they'll nail from the king stud into the jack stud. And so if you look over here, there were no nails going from this jack stud on this side into the king stud. All of these screws you see here were just added by Pete, you know, 5 minutes ago or so. And so he put a couple 45 going into the header, and he also screwed this the jack stud into the king stud. Because again, previously the only thing holding this here typically is some nails coming from the king stud into the jack stud. And so the old door was hinged on this side, and this is, I believe, yeah, the new door is going to be hinged on this side too. And so most of the weight is hanging on this stud. So if the only thing you have is nails coming this way into this jack stud, the weight of that door over time, it pulls this stud, away from the king stud, and the end result is you've got a door that, this bottom corner will stick and be difficult to operate over time. It just becomes a problem. And so a lot of the issues with door operation is these studs moving around. Pete says he sees that all the time. That's one of the biggest reasons why people's doors don't operate correctly. And really, there's no proper way to fix it without removing your door and reinforcing the stud and then reinstalling the new door. And so Pete, he's actually added, some screws over here as well, and kind of at the top or on the hinge side, he'll add even more screws for more support. And so that's kind of one thing that Pete looks out for, and one thing that I believe sets Brennan apart is we kind of take those extra steps to reinforce the framing of your home. Because when we come out and replace your door, we do provide great craftsmanship and products with great warranties. So if there is any issue in the future, we'll take care of it. But we tend to believe, and I think homeowners would like it as well, that they don't, once something is replaced, they don't want to deal with it again. And so that's why we take those extra steps and precautions to make sure every product we install is installed correctly, and there's no room for failure down the line. All right, another thing we'd like to point out that kind of sets the Brennan installation apart is you can see Pete has cleaned up where this bottom threshold is going to go. So, there's a bunch of glue and loose grout and whatnot. And so it doesn't take very long, a couple minutes to just clean this area up, have a nice clean surface. And I say clean, I mean, here it looks still kind of dirty, but there's a bunch of gunk and stuff in here that we clean up so we have a nice clean surface. And we'll put some adhesive down here. Another thing I wanted to point out on the ProVia, see, we've got the frame sitting here. Pete's about to set the frame. Is on the bottom threshold. So you can see here, there's the threshold. Here's the interior. You've got the it's an adjustable threshold, so you've got these screws that you can raise and lower the threshold. But one thing to point out is the threshold, the door jamb is screwed into the threshold. A lot of the lower cost, or what it would be referred to as builder grade vendors, they don't screw, they staple. And so over time those staples work loose, and then through repeated traffic walking over the threshold kind of starts moving, and you can feel it when you walk over the threshold. So again, just another thing that sets ProVia apart from the competition, and the Brennan installation apart from the competition. All right, so before Pete, before he puts the door down, he's going to put some sealant adhesive. It's a NovaFlex. What is that? Silicone. Put a nice big bead down. So not only does it help with sealing, it also kind of helps support the threshold. It's when you walk over it, you shouldn't feel any give. It should feel nice and solid. And please forgive me if we're picking up some water noise. We got a koi pond over here. Nice little bit of paradise in the customer's backyard. And so here we use 3-inch stainless self-tapping screws. So he'll peel that weather stripping back so he won't damage it. So for now, he'll just set, what was it, 4?
Yeah.
So for now, he'll just do 4 screws in each corner to kind of initially set the door. You can see he's checking, making sure everything's square and level. He'll set those 4 screws just to initially set the door, and then from there he'll go in and shim the door and whatnot. So again, he's using a 3-inch stainless steel screw. You know, he had informed me that most doors he replaces, a lot of builders, they actually use just nails to set their doors. So one of the nice things, and there he is checking for square. So yeah, one of the he informed me that builders, and a lot of doors he replaces, they just use nails to set the doors. So one of the advantages of using screws is if the door does move around at any point, you can always go back and back those screws out or tighten them up to adjust the door. So here we are inside after he had just set the door. It's a little tight, so getting footage is going to be a little difficult. The brightness might change on me here, but you can see the door is in here square. So here's one of the screws. He always puts it behind the weather stripping, so they're nice and hidden. And then when he mounts the door, he'll put 2 screws, use 2 3-inch screws to go through the door frame into the stud, and then, you know, these other 2 screws will be the screws supplied by ProVia. And from there he'll you know, mess with shimming and whatnot to make that reveal gap nice and even. And there he is using an airbag to kind of lift the door up. That's how he can do this hanging door one man. So here we go, the door is set for the most part. There's the exterior. I mean, from the exterior, doesn't really look a whole lot different. So we'll go inside, close this door, hopefully it won't. Okay, so we still have yet to install the hardware. There's a nifty little receiver we'd like to show you on the hardware. But as you can see, the reveal gap for the most part is nice and even. We'll still adjust it a little bit, but that's one thing when whenever I go to a customer's home that's looking and interested in replacing their door, or they complain about their door that's not operating properly, you know, an existing door, not necessarily one that we've installed. One of the first things I'll look at, usually I'll start in the corner, is the reveal gap. I'm talking about this gap here, and you go left to right, and then or not necessarily left to right, but you go from one side to the other, and then look from top to bottom. And a properly set door, that reveal gap should be even the entire way across the door. and from top to bottom. It's a very easy thing to diagnose and see, and that's the first thing I'll look at. If the reveal gap's not right, I mean, it's pretty easy to say that you know they're going to need to at the very least reset their door. So another thing I'll point out, I don't know if it'll show up very well. Yeah, you can see there's that 3-inch screw, so it's enough to go through the door frame and then into this jack stud, and maybe even a little bit into the king stud. So again, we use 3-inch stainless self-tapping screws standard on all of our door installs. All right, so this is a door that we installed yesterday, or Pete installed yesterday. Same door. It's a Legacy, ProVia Legacy 20 gauge steel door. I guess one thing I forgot to point out when I was going over the door earlier is the Legacy doors are 20 gauge steel. Most other vendors on their steel doors, they use a 24 gauge, which is a thinner gauge. So again, another thing that sets ProVia apart from the competition. So this is a similar door, you know, same paint color, full view, all that. Obviously it's a double door. The door we're installing today is a single entry door. Another difference is they have this flat, I believe this is 3.5 inch brick mold, and this is wrapped just like the other door. The frame is wrapped. So here's a clear example of yet another brick mold or exterior casing option that ProVia provides. There's a nice little spider. So this is a double door. This is what we'll call the man door, or the main active door. This is in an active passive configuration. You can go, you know, passive active. You can do it to where only one door opens and it's hinged on the side. Only one door opens. It's hinged in the middle. There's a bunch of different combinations you can go with. You can go with a 3 or 4 panel door, where the 2 on each side are fixed, the 2 in the middle open. There's a lot of different options. This is, again, active passive. So the active door panel, you can see it operates like a normal door. The passive door panel, this is a dummy handle. It doesn't open the door. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, you can use it to open and close the door when the door is unlocked, and it matches the active door panel. So we'll open the active panel, and I'll show you how to open the passive panel. So one thing we really like with ProVia, built into the door astragal, and the astragal is this kind of this middle part right here. On the side of the door, you lift this lever to unlock the door. Very simple. Now the door is unlocked, and you can use that handle to open and close the door. So again, very simple. And then to lock it, again, you just push it closed, lower the handle, and it is spring loaded. So if those chute bolts don't line up perfectly, you can just move the door, and eventually they'll find their way home and lock. So there's a chute bolt that goes in the top of the door frame. There's a little steel reinforcement plate up here, and then it goes in the bottom of the door as well. So again, if we unlock it, very simple. Now it's locked. So if you'll, we can get some detail. You can get some detail on the bottom. So there's some weather stripping and whatnot down here, and again, it is spring activated. So I'll lower it. And you can see there's the spring action. So when the door is closed, throw that chute bolt. It forms a nice tight seal, very airtight, energy efficient, and then the man door, or the main active, the passive door, or no, sorry, forgive me, the active door forms a nice tight seal against this Q-Lawn weather stripping. So that's how you open and close a double entry door from ProVia. So here's another differentiator from ProVia. This is the door latch striker plate, and you can see it's got this little piece of metal right here that sticks out. You can kind of see the edge right there. And then this is the plate. This actually goes behind the striker plate. And you can see it has these little lines they're kind of scored into the surface, and it's got these kind of oval shaped holes. And so, you know, you put the striker plate on top of, I guess we'll call this back plate the keeper plate. And that little piece of metal I pointed out earlier, it lines up with these lines, so you can adjust it again with those oval holes on the back. So when you tighten everything down, you screw everything in, you know, this piece of metal bites into these score lines. It's very difficult to capture this all on camera, but so for whatever reason the door moves around a lot, your foundation moves. We are in North Texas. Foundation movement is very common here. You can loosen those screws a little bit and adjust this keeper plate. So again, something very, it's, I guess, kind of future-proof. Something ProVia. It's a pretty basic or simple concept and design, but not a lot of other vendors are doing it, and it's yet another reason why we really like ProVia and the quality that they provide. So another thing I'd like to point out for the hardware from ProVia is on the deadbolt strike plate, they have what's called a dust cover. So you can see in here, it's a little piece of metal that goes in here. It provides a nice, clean, finished look. And if we go here on the inside, let's see if we can get this thing to focus so it'll show up. Maybe let me close the door so it's not so bright. Man, it's really hard to tell, but you can see, I don't know if you can see that. You can see that dust cover sticking out past the security plate. Again, this is a security plate we talked about earlier. And we've got, you know, multiple screws. Not only is the security plate attached to the jamb, now you've got, again, additional 3-inch screws going through everything, providing yet more security. All right, so here Pete has just installed the adjustable strike plate. I asked him to keep it a little loose for me. So here you can see, well, oh yeah. Oop. So here you can see how you can kind of adjust it. There you've got, you know, your entire hole, right? Or you can move it out and now the hole is smaller. So again, you can adjust that, and that's kind of how that works. And one thing Pete pointed out to me, which I forgot to mention earlier, if you don't have this adjustable strike plate and say for some reason you need to adjust your door, you can see the door, it's got this mortise here for your strike plate and whatnot. So you've got just a normal door where you don't have this adjustable strike plate and you need to move it because your door doesn't latch anymore. Typically what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to take this off and you're gonna have to drill new holes into your wood. And so if you've got all these holes right next to each other, eventually, you know, in that wood, it's just all gonna get eaten out, and now you've just got a kind of screw sticking in there that's not really biting on anything. So with this adjustable strike plate, it's still the original hole. You don't need to drill new holes. You don't need to mess with the mortise. Again, just another great design choice from ProVia. So the door is in. Let's go take a look inside. Last thing we need to do is we'll foam this this gap, all these gaps. Put a low expansion foam in there. The door has been shimmed. Let's see, I don't believe there's any shims up top. So you can kind of still see a little bit of daylight. It just needs to be sealed and foamed. And here's our shims. Let's see. There's a shim. We use composite shims. Again, apologies for the quality. It's kind of a tight space in here. Let's see. Here's some shims near the keeper. Again, composite shims. These aren't going to rot or anything like that. So Pete was telling me he likes to shim just the bottom hinge. So in the future, if this door needs to be adjusted at all, he can come back out here and tighten up or loosen, you know, one of the screws he put in this hinge. Here, let's see if we can open it up. You can see the these, you know, brass hinges or screws were provided with the hinge. These stainless screws are the 3-inch screws that are going through the door frame, through the hinge, through the door frame, into the stud. And so he can tighten these up or back them out and adjust, you know, adjust that door. Let's see. He can adjust that door, you know, just using the screws on that hinge in the future, should we need to. And so if he shimmed everything, it makes adjusting the door in the future much more difficult. And so that's why he likes to do it that way. If you just, in the future, if you shimmed everything, you'd have to pull the trim off, pull some of your shims, adjust it that way, versus this way, you just tighten up or loosen some screws. You don't have to remove any trim. You don't really have to do anything. And I mean, most DIY people, they can do it themselves. It's a very simple process. So that's the way he likes to do it. And we've had plenty of success with shimming the door that way. And so the door install is for the most part complete. We still have to caulk and seal the exterior. But there's the door. So we'll go take a look inside. Again, it's kind of a tight fit. Yeah, so there's an interior trim has been applied. We needed to put some wood putty in there and do a little touch up. And this is factory supplied trim from ProVia. It's color matched to the interior finish of the door. I guess that's one thing I didn't point out. I don't know if any of y'all noticed. The door has a two-tone finish. It's a white interior and like a tan exterior. And so here's the door installed. I was taking another look at the keeper. You can see Pete has set it such that it's adjusted such that when you close the door, you kind of have to push on the door a little bit and it forms a nice tight seal all the way around on this Q-Lawn weather stripping. We can show that here. Here's just kind of loosely closing the door. If I give it a push, you can hear it click. Now it's sealed in there nice and tight on the exterior, nice and airtight. Very easy to operate. The deadbolt doesn't stick anywhere or anything like that. It's a really great product, a really great install. All right, so here we have the tools of the trade. This is everything that is typically going to be used in a door install. We'll just start left to right. And you'll notice everything here is cordless. So we've got a miter saw here for cutting trim and whatnot, getting those nice miters. I got a little battery-powered blower, expanding foam with a gun to get nice and precise. A pneumatic nailer for those nice finish nails on the trim and whatnot. And this thing is like a Dremel. It's for cutting baseboards and whatnot. It operates like a Dremel, but you can get it in nice and tight spaces, and it's got this flat piece versus a circular blade, a lot easier to use. And this is a grinder with a diamond tip for cutting tile. And you've got your typical reciprocating saw, typical circular saw, and then your tool belt with your hammer, impact driver, measuring tape, pry bar, utility knife, screwdriver, all the essential items in a tool belt. So that's it for the most part. All the tools that'll need to be used. You can get by with less, but you might need a couple trips to the hardware store. And with all this, you can get everything done pretty much every door install. You shouldn't run into any unforeseen problems that you can't solve with these tools. And last but not least, we've got a trash receptacle. I like to keep the job site nice and clean. And then a shop vac. So we like in our installers like the work smarter, not harder. If you continually clean up your job site as you're going along versus waiting until the end and you got a giant mess, it's just a lot easier and the customer's, happier. So we like to take the approach where, short of having new windows or a new door installed, you shouldn't know we were here. All right, so that about covers it for this project. If you like the video, please give us a like or subscribe. Thanks for watching.